All right, how best to prepare grains. In this edition of Easy Upgrades, I want to show you how you can easily upgrade the nutrition of your grains and add in a few little extra steps. Simple, easy, but make a world of difference in terms of the benefits you're going to get. My name is Malcolm Saunders. This is another edition of Easy Upgrades. Whether you cook rice, millet, quinoa, whatever type of grain that you might have on occasion, I'm going to suggest a little easy upgrade, and that is to pre-soak the grains before you cook it. So you'll take your grain, you can soak it right in the pot, so you add it to your pot. I've got about a cup there, and what I'll do is then add just enough water to cover and let it soak, let it sit on the counter, room temperature, for the 8, 12, 24 hours. So depending on your timing, there's no real specific science around this. Let it be overnight, let it be a day. That time allows the grain, again, be it your quinoa, be it your rice, whatever it is, to kind of first initially just soak up some of that moisture, rehydrate. And again, a grain, it's like a seed in that sense that it has that potential to then come to life, to sprout, and to grow into a new plant. Obviously now we're not going to take it that far, but in doing so and allowing it to soak and to sprout, we know from a lot of nutrition science that sprouts have a lot more nutrition in them that's a lot more bioavailable. There's a number of reasons for that. One of the key benefits here is that we're reducing what's called the anti-nutrients, things like phytic acid. It's a protective mechanism of a grain that's helping preserve its nutrients until it's ready to sprout into new life, right? That's the purpose of these seeds and these grains, is to produce new life. We're getting and taking advantage of a stage where we're then going to eat them, all that stored up energy, all that potential nutrition that's there. If we soak it ahead of time, we release that and we're going to get more from it. And as simple as kind of having a little bit of foresight of when you might be cooking a certain grain, giving it that time to kind of soak, rehydrate overnight. That phytic acid is then disabled, and you're going to get more nutrition from it. So the phytic acid kind of holds and binds on to certain nutrients until the conditions are right for it to kind of grow into a plant. So we're simulating that by letting it soak at room temperature. That's released, it's deactivated, and then the nutrients are more bioavailable. So that's just a quick little tip you can do. Another thing on top of that is when you're cooking your grains, consider adding a little pinch of sea vegetables, right? Not enough that it's going to become a flavor of it, but something like some kelp flakes or mixed sea vegetable blend or kelp powder. You're going to add in those minerals and that diversity of micronutrients that the sea vegetables offer. It's a wonderful way to get in just a little pinch into your grains. You won't even notice it in terms of flavor, but you will notice it in terms of nutrients and benefits. And it's that easy to do. Next little tip, an easy upgrade I'd like to suggest, is that when you soak your grains overnight, just use water. But then when you're going to cook it, you can use a broth. Could be a vegetable broth, could be a bone broth. So what I like to do is I like to take my bone broth, we'll make a big giant pot of bone broth, and then we'll store it in the freezer and then just pull it out when we're ready. That becomes the base of our soups, but it also becomes the base of what we cook our grains in, right? So now you're getting a much deeper level of nutrition. The grain that's been soaked and sprouted, cooked in a broth. You've got the nutrients of the bones, the vegetables, the herbs, the mushrooms, everything that might go into a broth when you create it yourself now is getting infused into the grain. You can do 100% broth, or you can just add a little bit, right? Obviously, when you're doing that soaking process, it's kind of like a 50-50. 50% water, that grain has been soaked and rehydrated, that water absorbed, and then we add the rest, a broth to then cook it in. So super easy upgrades. I've got a fourth one for you. So first we had soaking and sprouting, we'll let it sit overnight, reactivate, and release some of those anti-nutrients. Second tip was to add in a sea vegetable or a seaweed, a fine powder that you can cook it in. Third would be to cook the grain in a broth. Again, your rice, your quinoa, whatever it is, they all work very well cooked in a vegetable broth or a bone broth. Fourth little tip and upgrade is when you're actually serving your grain, be it quinoa, you can cook it in or add it to afterwards something like maca or mesquite. A lot of people are familiar using maca in their smoothies, elixirs, that kind of thing, but maca and mesquite can be cooked in with the grain, or once the grain is cooked, you add it in as a flavor. You know, not too much. Maca has quite a strong flavor, but anywhere from a teaspoon up to a tablespoon per pot or per serving. I'm sure you'll find that right amount for you. Adds a nice, depth of flavor, but also all the nutrients and benefits and properties that maca and mesquite contain. So there you have it. Quick and easy upgrades to enhance your experience eating grain, getting more nutrition in every bite you take.